You can intro the grief.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Remind podcast. I'm Dr. Ashleigh Moreland and I am joined by my amazing co-host, David Masterton. I want to talk about a topic today that I have never really heard anyone else speak about, and it's a weird angle of grief. It's grief around when your parent actually does the work and heals. Now, I know this is a real, might be triggering for people, especially people who have parents who haven't done the work and aren't engaged in the healing and maybe are completely closed off to that whole process. But this is a really interesting one that I myself have experienced, and I've come across this in clients. I've actually even had clients where the adult child and their parent have done essentially relationship work. And both of them have been able to see their own contributions to the pain and the circumstance and be able to forgive and reconcile and move on in a really beautiful way. And in my own lived experience, I've shared many, many times about my childhood experiences and much of it at the hands of my dad. My dad is almost 65 and he has engaged in deep healing. Like over the last few years, he's engaged in deep healing and he's now one of my closest relationships. We have a beautiful relationship. And, you know, it's not lost on me how fortunate and privileged I am to be able to speak so openly about my childhood experiences as they were at the time with my own dad, who at the time was the perpetrator of those experiences, being able to hold space and receive them with so much grace and compassion, not taking offense to it, not being defensive of it, but being able to see that experience through the eyes of childhood me, who was experiencing the man that he was 30 years ago, 35 years ago, because I'm not the same person anymore and he's not the same person anymore. And he's engaged in this incredible healing journey that has allowed him to understand why he was the way he was as my father. And we now have these incredible, deep, rich conversations, really vulnerable and raw conversations about that, where he can hold space for my childhood experiences and offer me compassion and remorse. And equally, I can hold space for his experiences that led to that in the first place, you know. But something that, so all that to say, I fully acknowledge how fortunate I am to have that experience, because so many of my clients yearn for that experience, but their parents are not in a position, they don't have the emotional or psychological intelligence or capacity to be able to go down that path. It's confronting. And so what I wanted to talk about is this weird experience of grief when the healed or healing version of the person who hurt me now shows up as a doting, responsive, connected, nurturing person in my children's life. Because as much as I'm so grateful for that experience for my children, what it does do is it brings to the surface grief of my inner child, that they get to experience something that I never got to.
Well, why didn't I get that kind of thing?
Yeah, exactly. And why couldn't you be that for me? Why, and it's really interesting. And it's so fascinating that I'm having this experience because, so I've had many clients who have experienced that same thing. They watch their parents. Sometimes it's not even with their kids. Sometimes they watch their parent who was so hard and so strict and so this and so that be so cute and loving to a dog or to something else, and be like, oh my gosh, you can have this like cute, playful, the dog could chew up something or destroy something and you're not kicking that over the back. Yes, they've got this capacity and this tolerance and this grace and compassion and like all these things,
Mm,
which were characteristics they needed in their parent as a child, but never
mm,
got. And
mm,
so it can really mirror the pain that can still sit beneath the surface and
mm,
invite us into processing a level of grief for a past version of ourselves. And this is just a really interesting, like I said, it's a privileged version of grief,
mm.
because I imagine the version of grief where our parents just will never, ever be able to give us that is very hard.
And you have to create your
And
own closure. Yeah.
yeah, and you create your own closure in the absence of them being able to give you that.
The
But
recognition.
at the same yeah, but at the same time there is uh this weird experience of grief that I've never heard anyone speak about it.
Mm, yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, how could I relate to this? Not strongly. I've got one parent who was fairly absent because they were taken up in their role of what they needed to do, so they weren't around a lot. And that parent has actually done a lot of work, and it's like, okay, great. But there was not, unlike your example, where it's like there was a lot of sort of trauma from the actual, let's say, interactions. For me, it was just a lack of interaction. And the other one where I had a lot of interaction with, well, I'm just the problem. Always have been, always will be. And until I fix my ways and everyone sees me for the fuckwit I am, then, that's always going to be the case. So it's quite interesting because I kind of don't fit in either of those things, right? But I can definitely see, and I've seen in examples of how people have reacted in this scenario. It's sort of like, you did this to me all along, and now suddenly you're worried about this person. Why? Where was that when I needed it? And so I've seen it, and I can certainly understand how that would be somewhat triggering, and it would trigger that to come up so you can process it. But how can I relate to this? Not very well. Because, like with both my parents, I understand why. I'm okay with exactly where they're at exactly this point in time, and I don't need them to change. And that's not because of them. That's because of what I've done. But I could see how certainly if I was to, let's just say, for example, my children were to look at, their early childhood, because like my oldest is 13, is if I was to have another child now, I'd be treating that child very different to how I treated them at the same age at that point, because my healing started properly about 4 or 5 years ago. So I can see how that could kind of relate. I was a different person, different circumstances, different awareness, different. And I also believe that's the same with my parents. It's just different, right? There's a different viewpoint. But then to change it on its head and go, yeah, I was a miserable bastard, so that's why I did it. And there's no excuse for it. It's like, well, no, you don't get off that easy. Well, yeah, you're right. What would you like me to do? There'd be a lot to process. There'd be a lot to
Yeah,
process.
100%. Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it?
So how did you go about it? Oh, actually, are you all the way through it, or are you halfway through it? The processing, do the triggers come up a lot now, or is it just a different feeling when it happens? You personally going through that process?
I think it's impossible to say how far through it am I, because all I've ever got, all any of us ever have as a guideline for our healing is our own triggers And that's why I always say our triggers are our greatest gift, because without them, we don't know where we still have work to do. Our triggers show us where we're not emotionally free.
Awareness,
So for me, I honor the feelings that come up as they come up. And I sort of just check in with my little inner child and I respond to her. I parent her. She'll have her thoughts and she'll have her feelings, and I be present with her and I check in with her. And also I look at how can I shift. So the frequency of, if grief is quite low down the frequency of emotion, I look at what can I integrate to even just move it up to neutral. And then from neutral, how can I move it up to gratitude? And from gratitude, how can I move it up to love? And almost every time when I do that, obviously I can move into gratitude for the growth and healing that has occurred, and that for the relationship that we're able to have now. And I also can drop into gratitude for the lessons that my experience has taught me to equip and empower me to be able to help people. So that's kind of probably my very raw and real approach. It's not methodical. It's not doing anything else, because I apply, I guess, in real time, the very principles that I use clinically and therapeutically. So in that, there's internal family systems, there's parts work, there's inner child healing, there's reframing, there's like all of these different modalities tied into just one, how am I responding in this moment to what I'm feeling and the thoughts that are coming up. So
so I guess the upshot of this is we recognize it. It is something that does happen. Doesn't make you a bad person, or it doesn't make you, you shouldn't feel bad about having these kind of things, but use it as an opportunity to work through it. And as you sort of said, the trigger is a blessing, even though it doesn't feel like it at the time. That's brought you awareness to sort of go, oh, I am feeling something. Don't squish it down. Don't tell yourself you're silly. Don't do any of those things, but sort of go, okay, what is it that I kind of need? And if you don't know, that's okay. Allow yourself to be present to that and give yourself time to be able to process it. And that could mean a day, a week, a year, or a decade, whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly.
And allow it to be what it is. But I suppose on the shiny side of that coin, the fact that people are doing the healing work at whatever age, because it doesn't matter, it's never too late. Good on them. But also, as we sort of start off the top of this show, there can be, for other people around, a little bit of collateral damage to people healing. And that's okay, because it's not about the perfection, right? It's about how you deal with it.
And it's about not judging it. Like, could you imagine how offended someone would be whose parents haven't engaged in healing and who, they've never had those needs met. They've never been able to hear the words that they've always yearned to hear. Could you imagine how hurt and offended they would be if I was like, oh, gee, I've got grief coming up because my dad has done so much healing and he's now the man that I needed him to be. It's so important to not judge. And this is the difference, because if I was sitting here and someone else was sitting opposite me and I was telling them my experience, then they're on the receiving end of my experience. It feels like some kind of attack or threat. Whereas if I'm here and they're sitting with me in my experience, it's not about judging. It's not about comparing to their own. It's not about anything else. It's purely just about going, wow, that must be really hard. Like, help me understand. What do you need? What do you need to hear? And it's just about being with me and my feelings and being able to move through it. And that's the approach. Like, sometimes clients come to me with issues where I've never experienced the thing that they're going through. And it's not my job to judge how they're feeling about it. It's my job to be with them in their feeling, to help them to create safety to move out of it.
Exactly. 100%. That judgment piece is so important. It's not about judgment, comparison, whatever it is, what's reasonable, what's unreasonable, what's logical, what's not logical. If you feel it, it's real. What are you going to do about it? Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
So if you want me to tell you and justify your feelings? Well, if you want me to not justify your feelings, well, it's okay. Well, you feel it; it's real. If I care and I want to be of assistance or service, I'll sit with you through it. If I don't, I won't. Like,
Exactly. And if I have the capacity for it, that's what it comes down to.
I mean, it's like if you do or don't, it's like not necessarily because of capacity. It could be because of other reasons. It's like I can say no, and that's fine. I don't need to fix everyone's problems, and not everyone's here to carry other people's problems. But I guess it's that non-judgment. If we were to all apply that sort of, okay, yep, then we can sort of go, yes, that must be difficult for you. Just like for the ones that haven't healed, yes, that must be difficult for you. Both difficult. Okay. All right. You want to see how big my difficult is?
Yeah,
I'll show you how big my difficult
My heart
is.
is worse than your heart.
Your hard's not hard. You want to see hard? I'll show you hard.
My mind's gone to the gutter. We got to end this convo.
Oh. This is PG, Ash. All right. Thank you, everyone. If you liked whatever that was, hit the like, subscribe, give us some comments about, if there's anything you want us to talk about, or if there's something that may have come up while we're talking about it. Let us know. Engagement's great.
Yeah.
And
amazing.
We will catch you next week.
Guys, bye.
Bye-bye.